Hello, Tom Brady and Mr. Christian. Nice to meet both of you. It's great to see that you guys have come in for this mediation today. I would like both of you to keep in mind that since you are here, we're going to be talking in private. No one else will ever know what we're going to be speaking about in here. So, this is a place where you can say anything that you would like, so long as, you are being respectful of each other and being respectful of us too. This is my partner here. Her name is Karina. She's also going to be mediating today. And if you would like to say anything.
Yeah, and I just want you guys to be honest, and I want to thank you for being willing to be here and to open up. I know it's not going to be an easy experience for both of you, but I think that as long as you guys get out what you guys need to say, then it'll clear the air a bit. So Mr. Brady, would you like to start?
It's Tom.
Okay, Tom Brady. I'm sorry. Would you like to start? Exactly what's
Sure.
been going on?
I recently moved into the neighborhood. I haven't been here too long, maybe like a couple months, almost a half year, I say. But yeah, it's a decent sized little church. It's like down the road, down the hill, and like I was fine with like, oh yeah, like they can do their little thing. But recently they've been making a lot of noise, and just the way like the landscape is set up, like it amplifies a lot of the noise back up toward the neighborhood, and like we can just hear everything that's going on. And it's just really been a big problem with not only me but other neighbors in the neighborhood. And each time I try and address them, well, at least the church for that sake, I'm never able to speak to the priest or the head guy. I'm only able to speak with the secretary, and so I'm not getting any answers. And it's just been really hard, like, my wife raising our kid, and also being lawyers full time is not easy, especially when you can't get a lot of sleep because there's kids crying at all hours of the day, I mean. So I just wanted to come to mediation. I thought it'd be a good idea to try and clear the air so I don't have to fill out a lawsuit for a nuisance.
Okay. So then it's mainly about, the noise and not getting sleep. I know it's probably hard being a lawyer and your wife being a lawyer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult. You don't have a lot of time to do things.
And I have a small question. So how exactly do you try to contact the church?
Usually by phone.
Just by phone? Have you ever walked in?
It's a pretty treacherous walk. You'd have to drive all the way around. It takes like 15 minutes, 20 minutes just to drive all the way around, because you have to go around the hill to get down.
Alright. Alright, well in that case, thank you for letting us know your side of the story. And will you go ahead and let us know yours, Mr. Christian?
Yeah, sure. So, House of God was established in our current location on our 2 acres of land where we are right now for quite a while, and it happened before these more affluent members of society began to move in on the hill and purchase their multi-million-dollar homes. And for a while it wasn't really a problem. We've had lots of facilities. We have several facilities on the premises. We have our main parish, we have classrooms, we have meeting rooms, a sanctuary. And so with all that room, we try to really facilitate the core values that our church tries to promote. Growth for young individuals, for families. From time to time, we have weddings and stuff, and of course those events are normally louder than the complaints coming from the newly established daycare center that we've put in, which is actually something that is not owned by the church. It is something that is a portion of our land that we have leased out to them at a cheap flat rate to kind of just bring more attention to our community in a positive way. And while we don't own it, it is becoming an essential part of our establishment. And recently, there were no problems up until late with the new neighbor coming in, and before that, like I said, we had no complaints, and now we're getting 10 to 15 phone calls a day from the 15 houses that live on the hill. Which, I mean, if they're such busy individuals, I don't understand why they're home so much and making so many phone calls. Like, our establishment meets within reasonable time frames. It's pretty much a preschool for children who are 2 months, 2.5 years old. So it's not like they're gonna stay there at all hours of the night. I understand there's complaints being made about ability to sleep, but I don't know who with a kid is gonna be sleeping during the middle of the day anyway.
Oh, well,
So, I don't really understand that perspective, but that's resulted in the children being yelled at by these elderly individuals. And I don't mean like elderly in comparison to me, I mean more so to the children, which I find to be very disrespectful and inappropriate. I feel like if you want to go and yell at children who are about 30, 40 years younger than you, you need God in your life. I feel like if it had been such an issue, then that should have been addressed when they were moving in. That should have been something that they consciously planned for. Again, our establishment has been here for all of the houses on the hill, so it's not something that we should be liable for. We were pre-existing. Our establishment was there first. We really don't celebrate every day of the week. Mostly Sundays. I mean, of course, Little Tots goes Monday through Friday, but
so it's pretty much every day of the week you hear something.
Right, but that's only our classrooms, and that's a very small portion of the events that we have. So it really shouldn't be that big of an inconvenience to you
The
guys.
playground in the back and the children screaming, and then like them crying all the time, and you guys just allowing
your child
them to
cry?
So
She
let's
does,
go ahead and
a reason why
let's
she
go
cries
ahead.
a lot.
So you can go ahead and if you do have questions, you can go ahead and write them down or keep them in mind. But just go ahead and let him finish with what he has to say first, and then we're gonna go to a stage where you can go ahead and ask him any questions you like. Speak
But
to
we
him.
would most likely
Yes.
prefer if you told us what's
Exactly.
been going on and talk to us about it.
Yes, and once you figure out what you want to ask or what you would like to know, you can pretty much gather that information through us. That way, when we figure out all of our solid information, eventually you both will get to a point where you can speak to each other on a calmer level. Okay.
So our establishment isn't extremely wealthy. We bought the land for cheap, and now we're facing this sort of issue, and I don't want this to get out of hand to the point where I have to bring in a lawyer to make a claim, or or even really deal with the city, because that's not something I want to do. But I can't have children on my premises being harassed by fully grown adults who are seeking just to poison our atmosphere, really, and kind of just take away from the attraction that we try to give to the Lord. And that's the extent of my complaint, really. I just don't understand why that's such a big issue for the hill goers.
I have a couple questions. So what type of complaints have you gotten?
More so just about the kids running around and crying, but also, it turns into them screaming at the kids to shut up. Like, that's...
I never told a kid to shut up. I don't know where you got that from.
Did someone physically go up to the kids and?
No, but I mean screaming, which to me is even less reasonable, because if you don't want to step on the premises to have a conversation with us about this, then I don't know why we're here.
So are they yelling from
From their
the
property,
hill,
correct,
their
yeah.
property?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have all the neighbors yelled at the kids?
No, I mean, there have, been other passive aggressive, behaviors, people honking their horns as they drive by down the hill. And I arguably can't tell if that's supportive or aggressive. For the most part, it's a car horn.
That's all we hear are car horns, people driving and parking in and out, dropping kids off, all of that. Like, what do you think we feel like hearing? We yell at you a couple times to keep it down, but that's how we feel. That's all we hear.
Alright,
That's
well.
all I hear too. I don't get aggressed by it.
But you don't live there. You get to go home to your peace and quiet afterward. That's where I
I
live.
pretty much live there. I mean, I'm the pastor of the church.
You live
I
in the
I
church.
pretty much spend all my time there.
So it is like your house.
The house of God.
I have another question. Is this
Mine
a
goes in the
daycare?
house, huh?
I'm sorry if you already explained this, but is this a daycare?
Yes, it is. So it's we've repurposed some of our classrooms on the facility into a kind of a daycare center for 2-year-olds up to 2.5-year-olds. Offer formalized education. We're not like accredited by the school district or anything like that. But it is just a service that we try to help provide. And part of that is we draw in new members who seek to put their kids in day services. And
What do you think that all the complaints are all about? From your view?
from my perspective, I just think it's people who have deviated from their course with God, who are just upset and ticked off the little things because they have everything else. So,
Well,
what else are you gonna nag at but noise? I mean, if you have the rest of the world provided for you by your gluttonous money, then I don't really know.
Well, to rephrase the question, she was more asking what have people been telling you, rather than how they are. So.
Or both, yeah, like both.
You think we're yelling at you because we don't have God in our lives? And that we have more money than you guys?
I think that's a part of the problem, yes. Because you have nothing else to worry about but people, little kids yelling, yes.
And disturbing sleep and...
Why are you sleeping when the kids are there? All of them are gone by 5, so I don't know why that's...
Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and clarify a little bit more about the time settings that this is happening. You said there were the daycare is open on reasonable times. Could you give us a look at that actually?
Anywhere from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
8 a.m. to 5 p.m. All right, and you were also talking about some of the core values that the church has, and is that also associated with the daycare center?
No. The daycare center, like I said, is not affiliated with our church. They are a kind of a subsidiary property that we have rented out to them on lease, not for purpose of income, but again, just to increase the functionability of our...
And how has that been essential to your church? Is it bringing in people?
It does. It drives in members. I mean, there's about I want to say 2,000 to 3,000 members of our between 2,000 and 3,000 members in our congregation right now, and we've been slowly watching that number increase as we've had people enroll their kids in Little Tots.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this in a different way. So let's say you are being disturbed at which hours would you say?
Mainly the hours that they're open, the morning time, probably around like 8, 9.
Morning time?
No, between like 7 and 9, because they're coming early to drop off their kids sometimes.
And that would be the main time that you feel like you're disturbed?
That, and then while they're there, it seems like pretty much all day the attendants or the teachers, they seem to just let the kids cry without without attending to them, like they'll just sit there and cry all day. So I'm hearing that throughout the day. And then when the parents come to pick up their children again, it's just noisy, crowded, and there's just traffic all up and down.
And so thinking about it in that sense, you do realize that they are not affiliated with the church, right?
Who's not affiliated?
The daycare center. He's been saying that it's they leased out the property to this daycare center. So
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, that still makes them responsible since it's still your property that you're leasing to another company.
Right.
You still have domain over that company since they're operating in your space.
which is a good point, and that would probably lead to this next point, which would I would like to ask you. Are you able to do anything with the daycare center other than kick them out? Because I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be the best option here.
Maybe, have you tried talking to the attendees?
I mean, I have no problem talking to them, and at the beginning of the problem, I did actually. But what can you do? What can you really do to stop a baby between like 2 months old and 2.5 years old from crying? Babies cry all the time. That is.
Stop abusing them.
Well, how have they been handling the situation this time? Or do you know exactly how they've been treating?
I mean, I
kids?
don't really enter the premises frequently. Actually, I don't know when the last time I did was. Again, mostly because that's not my prerogative. I'm not there to go in and check in on a company. I kind of let them function on their own. From time to time, I'll have meetings with the heads of the little tots just to kind of address little things in relationship to the church, not so much their business.
Okay. Well, let's see. Alright, so we can just go ahead and take a moment and think about it then. Think about the situation. So far from what we come to understand is that this is a place that's being leased on your property, and what's bothering you is the noise that's coming from that place. You haven't thus far, talked to them to see exactly how they're handling the kids, but you do know that it's helping you on your foundation with the church.
Right.
Right. So, thinking about the situation here, just take a moment and figure out if there's anything that you guys think would be a great option that could probably be used to help both scenarios, which would be help you get more rest perhaps. This also sounds like it could help the kids be treated better, have a better time at a daycare, which will eventually help the parents more and help the attendees more.
Right, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you how many kids are crying at one time. It could be one child, It could be.
Do you hear the kids crying?
From inside my parish, no. I mean, but again, there is that problem with the sound that they do experience on the hill. The sanctuary and pretty much everything is centralized and then starts to spread out into the classrooms and the meeting rooms. So we're kind of behind all the noise.
Do you know how many people are watching the kids?
There's 60 kids enrolled. So I'm not entirely sure how their staffing is over there. Again, like I said, I don't frequently meddle with that because it's not my business. It's not. I mean, I understand, if something unlawful is going on my property or whatever, then it is my business. But as far as I'm aware, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so if the noise is coming from, is it coming from the same building?
From the parish? No, it's coming from classrooms.
The classrooms? And who do you think, if it's not your responsibility, who do you think that you should go to?
I mean, this really should have been brought to, I think, the heads of little tots. I mean, my church and my church practices aren't what's causing the problem here.
It's his lack of sense of authority and letting know the leader of Little Tots what the neighbors are experiencing.
Have
Only
you
God
told,
has authority over them. I don't have control over them. That's
Mr. Christian, have you told any of the neighbors who have complained that it is the heads of Tots' responsibility for the noise?
you know we've tried to express that, but I feel like you know like Mr. Brady brought up. I understand, like, you know, it is technically on our property, so I mean, most people fail to understand why I would intervene or why I don't intervene. But again, that's not something I'm in direct control over. I'm really only in control of the property itself.
So what you're practically saying is, it would be against your religion or against your belief to intervene with someone else's practices.
No, I'm saying that legally I have no control over that business. I legally only have control over the land.
But there should be some sort of leasing terms. Can't just be like leasing your space out to anybody and then just like.
It wasn't anybody, it was one particular foundation, Little Tots, who, you know, thanks to our congregation of 2,000, 3,000 members, is, you know, seems to be doing quite well, and it is entirely possible that the number of kids continues to grow, which, you know, as you brought up, I may call for them to hire additional staffing, but as far as I'm concerned, neither of us is bringing in enormous amounts of cash, especially in this affluent neighborhood.
Or is it because you're spending it all? With 2,000-3,000 people, you should be able to bring in enough money to at least upgrade your facilities to a little more soundproof or something, because
Do you
it
know
just looks cheap and shabby.
a two acre church, or our establishment is on 2 acres of land. We have multiple separate outlets that are considered a part of our facility. That costs a lot, and 2,000 to 3,000 members really doesn't pay for all of the. I mean, it
10%
pays.
from each of them. How much are you
From what?
spending?
I'm not spending a cent. That's not my money. That is God's money.
Wow. So how do you give it to God?
We save it, and then we use what is necessary and put it back into the church's establishment to make sure that that is still a place of sanctitude for them. It is a holy place for people to come. We really only pay for, you know, again, to keep the facilities up and running. You know, there's little things like overhead. There's a couple of staff members who are paid enough to be able to live in this area, but not excessively. We're not gluttonous and greedy individuals.
Alright. Well, let's see. So, with 2,000, 3,000 members, and 60 members staffed, how many kids per day do you think would be in that daycare center?
There are 60 kids enrolled.
So there's 60 kids enrolled,
Yes.
and you have 60 staff members.
No. I said we
No,
have
he
several.
just said 60 kids.
Yeah,
Oh,
we have
okay.
several staff
He doesn't-
members in the church who are paid. He's asking about my financial
Right. And,
expenditures.
I'm sorry.
But you don't know exactly how many people are watching the kids?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So, let's think about it in this sense then. If you have 60 kids enrolled,
They do, I don't, but continue.
sorry. If they have 60 kids enrolled, this would probably be a good suggestion that either one of you could bring up to them and say, you know, if you do have 60 kids, maybe there should be more than, or there should be a requirement for how many people should be watching over the kids.
As far as I'm aware, there's some sort of legal certification and legal parameters that, there's a capita of, you know, people to monitor the children per number of kids. I'm not entirely certain what that number is, but, you know, that's.
So is the daycare, you guys aren't affiliated with the daycare, the church at all?
No,
So it's a secular daycare.
yes.
that pays the church to lease the space,
Yes.
and you have no authority over what they do or how they operate?
Like I said, unless something illegal is happening on my property, I don't have control over that. They are their own, establishment. As far as, noise goes, if it were unreasonable, so, after reasonable hours, which it's not,
Right.
that would be something that, as the owner of the property, I would be able to change. But they're within operational hours.
So, what it's come down to is, this is not an argument between you and you. What it's come down to is, you're here to pretty much figure out how would you go about the situation and getting something done about the daycare. And from what we know so far, he can't take any action because the lease, or at least there wasn't any documentation on the lease saying if they did such or such that he would have to do such or such.
Well, then I feel like they should just find a new place to locate.
We're not moving anytime soon. You're the only
Oh,
one.
no, I'm not talking about you
Yeah.
guys, the daycare.
Right, but
They're not,
it
they're
is.
not even associated with you guys. You
No,
don't,
but
you don't have to
it
house
has become an essential part of our ministry. So
them. So, in sense, you guys are still taking some sort of stance with the daycare.
no, I'm not standing with the daycare. I'm telling you that it is an essential part. They are an essential part of our ministry. So unless, like I said, unless something illegal is happening, they're not going to be removed.
All right, let's take a step back here. Let's actually understand exactly what you believe the daycare is providing for you. Is it providing members to come
It
and
is providing members to my congregation. It is providing a reason for people to bring their children, which, while it is a secular daycare, it is still on our ground, so those children are able to, walk from daycare, at church, to meet the parents, whatever the case may be, whatever the situation calls for.
So it's a secular daycare
well, hold
that's
on.
bringing in members to a church where he gets money, but yet he denies to take responsibility for any of the
see,
actions.
You
that
haven't
he
let
did.
him finish.
And his members are staffs, and his children in the church are attending the daycare, yet still he doesn't want to have any
Mr. Brady.
So I understand,
That's
from what it looks
ridiculous.
like right now, is that it does look like what's happening is he's getting members that
He's
go to
benefiting
church.
in any sense,
And it does-
everywhere.
I'm not
sound-
benefiting, they are benefiting, their souls are benefiting, their relationship with God is benefiting.
And then your pockets benefit.
No, my pockets don't benefit. I've already reiterated that to you multiple occasions.
Okay, so
and
then you're not
listen.
benefiting off of.
Monetarily, no. Spiritually, yes, I benefit.
So the main reason why, from what he's saying at least, and do take in mind that this is a priest, this is what he does for his life, right?
I wish I did that.
Well, everyone to his own, right?
I should
And
go start a church.
and
God
so
wouldn't accept you.
I have enough money to buy your church.
Everything in your life seems to revolve around money. Therein lies your problem.
Mr. Christian, do you ever, think about how considerate it would be to speak to maybe the attendees watching the children about the noise levels? Have you ever thought about doing that?
I mean, they're aware. They're aware of the noise complaints, but
But,
That
are
they-
you assuming that, or?
it's something that I brought up. But I mean, again, the response is you can't control crying of a child. Their parents are gone, so that anatomical connection between mother and daughter, mother and son, parent, any sort of parent and child is temporarily disabled. So I mean, they're more prone to crying. They don't feel that natural sense of comfort.
They're disabled?
Not disabled, but I mean, they're removed from that attachment with their parents, and that puts most children on edge, especially at young ages. So
But
there's
aren't they there 5 days a week?
some of them, yes. Not all of them, to my knowledge.
niece goes to a daycare. So
doesn't
sometimes, at first she started crying, but now she's pretty used to it. So I think it'd be beneficial to figure out why the neighbors are hearing so much crying, in order to stop complaints. But I think that'll be a step. And are there any other like ways or any ways you can think of, or any options you can think of about the noise or any other complaints? Is that the only problem that you have, Mr. Brady?
Yeah, pretty much.
Mhm.
I mean, they're children. Why should I limit? You know, it's. I find that to be a lot of control to put on a child that young.
Do you have any kids, Mr. Christian?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't.
Oh, you do not? Okay. Well, to tell you from experience, I have two little nephews and, nieces, and being in a family with two brothers, two sisters and one brother, families can get very loud, and there have been noise complaints that I've heard from my neighbors, and really what it comes down to is you can keep it down on some level. You can't stop a baby from crying.
Do you have 60
and
of those?
and
No.
that's what I'm saying. My two little nieces, it's hard enough as it is to have one niece who's 2 years old and then have the other niece who's 3 years old. When the 2-year-old goes to sleep, 3-year-old starts crying. 3-year-old wakes up the other one starts crying. It happens, and it's very hard to stop. However, what we've come to find over the years is the way to handle that is to put more attention on the kids. And so what a good solution might be, or a good option at least, would be for the daycare to put a little more attention on each individual kid, or at least have more people who are able to put more attention on a number of kids.
Or having even less kids.
Or perhaps even having less kids.
To have it even out with the amount of
I mean,
people they're watching.
the number of kids is going to increase the longer we're open. That's an inevitable fact. I'm not. I can't necessarily restrict the amount of students that they enroll.
Well, it's true that you wouldn't be able to, since they are secular from you, and all you're doing is leasing them on your property. However, I would like you to just take a moment to put yourself in someone else's shoes, like Tom Brady's over here, and understand things can get loud, and he is working from his house, making calls, trying to create a foundation for him and his kid.
No. My wife works from home and takes care of the kid. I work the graveyard shift. I go to work from 9 and I come back at 6. So I like to sleep during the times when the kids are out yelling at the daycare.
Is your wife disturbed by this too?
In a sense, I mean, like when our child is trying to nap or when she's trying to work, it may be difficult with the excess noise and cars driving.
But I'm just really confused by the fact that you guys all own multi-million-dollar homes, and with all that money, you couldn't have your walls just a little bit thicker.
Oh, we have pretty insulated housing. All our rooms are nice and insulated. We have dual pane windows. But as you know, the topography and the way the landscape is set up, everything from your church is amplified, like times 10.
Do you think it would change if he patented the walls of the church or the
I mean,
building?
I feel like that drastically help.
I can't pad the outside of a daycare. Because we've already established my practice is not the thing drawing in the noise. That's never been the source of complaint. It's little tots, and it's you, Mr. Brady.
From what it sounds, it also does sound like his current income isn't anywhere near what would be able to put up those forms of walls. And are you a multimillionaire? In the sense of what I'm asking is, would you be willing to help them with income-wise, set up a noise barrier so that you might get some more peace in
And
your
you
house?
can have the community.
Would I be willing to give him more money than he's already receiving?
But
you
it's
wouldn't
not
be
about
giving-
that, it would just be about the sound for the community. It's not, you're not going to give him money, but you're
So
going
I've
to help
already
the
paid
community.
millions of dollars to move into this house that my wife got designed to her liking. But then I'd have to pay even more money just for the silence?
Well, it was just a suggestion.
Is there gonna be like a toll and more money for me to pay to just get back to my house?
The demon of greed is presenting itself.
As I was saying, I was just making a suggestion. It's not necessarily something you have to act on, but what I'm saying is that although you have moved and you have paid a lot, you could do this, and it would probably help help figure out a way that both of you would be happy in your current state.
Or maybe even donating something, and maybe even the church, raising money, specifically for a barrier for the sound.
I mean, most of the
Members
churchgoers have kids that
Maybe
go there
Members in
anyway.
my congregation love the openness of the landscape. That's part of what makes our territory beautiful and open and free of.
So what's wrong with getting the
Free of
actual housing
complaints
remodeled?
or the-
Yeah. I mean, it is a place for people to think and be spiritual and intimate with God. And if you start to construct more and put up more barriers, you're effectively creating a barrier.
If
with
the
that relationship.
neighborhood took a vote of what they would like in their community about, the sound, and if you're saying about the physical,
I'm still gonna say that, I mean, I'm inclined to say that it's still, that is something that they moved into. So if they're not, like I said, I was here before all 15 of these houses popped up, so they should have been aware of that. They should have understood the dynamics of the hill and how sound would work.
So not to argue with you, but to rather put a point out there. If you were to make these, you said they're in classrooms, is that right?
Correct.
Alright, so when they're in these classrooms, making it more soundproof wouldn't entail creating more buildings or fences around or anything like that. Rather, it would be thickening what's inside the walls. So
Right.
roughly, the building would stay the same, the look would
But
stay
not
the
really,
same.
because insulation in walls isn't something that's cheap, and we'd probably have to tear down the majority of the establishment or the
But you guys
majority of
need
the
new
walls.
ones anyway, because the ones that you have are
We don't have the
cheap
money
as
for
shit.
new ones. We don't have that money. We don't have that funding.
And that's why we would have fundraisers, if you would like to
Yeah,
take
have
an
a bake
option.
sale or something.
we can have,
If it inconveniences you and your life so much, and the other members of that community, I urge you guys to seek that change on your own, because I don't have the financials, and no amount of fundraising is adequately going to give me and my establishment the money to be able to do that. And Little Tots doesn't draw in enough funds from
It's-
60 children.
it's about, trying to.
Right, and I'm trying. I am, but at the same time, like, I feel like, if I don't understand why,
So,
my establishment should be.
why are you here exactly, Tom Brady?
What
What would be the thing that you don't want to do then?
thing that I don't want to do?
Yes.
I don't want to leave here getting the same amount of sleep that I've been getting.
I mean, it's not an occupational
Earlier-
hazard, not a hazard of living next to my premises.
Earlier you said you were gonna do something against the church. Was that get a lawsuit? Was that?
Oh yeah. I mean, if we can't get it solved, then I have no other choice but to file a lawsuit for nuisance.
And I'll have no choice but to file a counterclaim, and it's gonna end up in a stalemate in court just the same.
It's
So
definitely
that's why we're here.
I'm a lawyer. My wife is a lawyer. I'm not gonna lose.
So my question is, would
I'm
you
just on
still
my
file a
side.
lawsuit knowing that this isn't really something that's within his control on a secular party that's just on his land,
But they're on his land.
renting on his land? It's kind of like if we rent from a landowner and then we murder someone, that doesn't make the landowner responsible. You see?
But he should have some sort of know-how and at least an idea of what's going on his land.
And
I do
I
know,
mean,
I
he does
have a
have
daycare, I have a daycare that watches
So
60
that
children.
makes you totally unresponsible as of what they do,
Yes,
yet still they can bring money into your
they're
establishment.
not bringing money. The
So-
money they raise for the 60 children goes to them. They are only bringing more members to our congregation, and we are not profiting from that exponentially. That is a slow profit, and that again is drained back into the rest of our facilities and the small number of staff that we
But
have.
obviously, it's not going back into the facilities if you can't even put any of that money.
I'm not talking about renovating the facilities, I'm talking about paying for the space and the energy bills and the water bills and the heating bills and the cooling bills. That's what I'm talking about paying for.
But it needs to be renovated is the thing. That's one of the necessities that
And,
needs to
and do
be
you know
added.
do you know what you need for renovations? I'm sure you do because you're
No, yeah,
wealthy.
I definitely do.
Okay, so then we don't have that. We don't have that amount of wealth.
Well, it's not a matter of wealth. It's
Oh no, it is
know-how.
because for that sort of quality material and that sort of quality work from quality professionals, you need money, and I don't have that money.
Well, you never asked me. I can always find a contractor for you for
I
a
don't.
semi-decent price, but it seems like you don't
See,
have-
I'm sure because of the way of this conversation, I'm sure that your idea of somewhat reasonable price, because you know you only know the wealthiest individuals, is slightly different than our impoverished sort of perspective over here, where we don't have that money. So I'm telling you, your contractor isn't going to be able to do anything for us, and I'm telling you that on our end, we just don't have the funds to hire one.
I tried.
If, for say, he was to at least let you know of a contractor that was, a semi-okay price, would you be at least willing to hear out what he has to say?
And I don't believe that Mr. Brady is being, personal. I think he wants to, all he wants
I
to do
mean, this is personal. There's no way for me to know if every phone call made is, from his wife or from him personally. I don't, I have an associate that deals with that. I don't personally, that's obviously why he's had a hard time getting a hold of me. And I've yet to have another member of this, neighborhood come and directly express their problems to me. So that tells me it has to do with Mr. Brady.
So is he the only one complaining?
Yeah. To my knowledge, do you have any names of neighbors that?
Oh yeah. All the neighbors down Lily Street. I mean.
You personally talked to?
Well, yeah, the
people?
Stevens. His wife is actually the one that went down to the fence.
Oh, I'm sorry, yelling at the children.
I'm honestly not sure what she said,
You
but
guys
she,
have tried to call and they don't pick up?
oh, multiple times. We're only able to speak to the secretary.
Mhm.
Alright, with that said, could you perhaps make yourself more available to speak to by, does your secretary forward contacts to you?
She relays important messages or important meetings, not contacts directly, unless again it's an urgent matter.
And have you been receiving many forwards?
Right,
From
like I
her
said,
about the
there's
situation.
about 10 to 15 calls a day about it, which I
Right.
I don't understand. I feel like to have money you have to go out and work, so how are you sitting at home during those hours of the day making 10 to 15 phone calls to my offices?
Oh, it's not me, but other neighbors in the neighborhood. There's a lot of stay-at-home
Right.
wives.
So from what it looks like is a misunderstanding of, like who's calling here. Obviously if you're giving 15 calls, regardless of who's calling, it sounds like it would be something important to understand, or at least to hear out. so, you know, just by coming here and listening to this, you've got an insight that there's a noise problem. It's coming from on your property, even if it's not from you or your church foundation. So clearly it's becoming something bigger and bigger, especially with more kids coming in, more families coming in. It can continue to get bigger, and eventually you're going to have to tackle this situation regardless of if you handle it here in this mediation today. So
So what we wanna do is just try and help, and if you're willing to, you know, if money is a problem, we can all discuss even trying to start a fundraiser.
Right.
Or,
I
I
would-
mean,
yeah, I would also like to remind you that we're not exactly here to, help you start a fundraiser or to help you start finding solutions. Rather, we're here for you to both understand where you're coming from. To be clear, it looks like both of you know where you're coming from. Now you know that he has no control over it other than they're leasing on his property. You know that he has no problem other than the noise problem. And both of you know this is a growing issue. So really, it's coming down to this, or at least the mediation has gone well in this sense. And right now, what we can look at is pretty much the next step, which would be fundraising. We're not asking you to put out money. We're not asking you to do anything out of context. Rather, we're just saying it's clear to all of us that this is going to be an issue. So if you like, both of you could work on this together, or you can figure out a way that you can come into contact with the secular party and have them do something about the noise. As we've come to understand, both of you don't have much you can do here other than to come in contact with them directly and figure something out.
I mean, logically, I feel like the easiest step to take forward with this, you guys seem to be worried about the number of people watching the number of kids. So if that seems to be the most pressing issue, I can speak with them to see if they would be willing to, make sure that the number of people they have monitoring the children is adequate. But again, as far as reconstructing classrooms or renovating them, I don't know the possibility of that. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, and think of projects like that, just from the start, it's definitely, mind-boggling at times. Because when, I don't make that much money either. So just to think about how much money it would cost, it's already a far stretch, But there are ways to do things like that. That would be a community project, of course, which you would participate in, and most likely you would participate in too. So, that can start as an idea and it can grow into something bigger. Right now, going with the idea of just talking to them would be a great aspect. And, do you think that, or at least, how do you think it would play if you came into contact with the Little Tots, was it? How would you think it would help by contacting Little Tots instead of contacting the church now? Do you think that
I
would?
just hope for more answers.
Would
I
that?
don't know. I don't know what they're gonna say. I'm not a mind reader, but I just hope that they'd have a better solution.
But, no, I think that's a good start, Mr. Christian. I think by starting to speaking to Little Tots about, the complaints that have been, telling them about it and, seeing if you could help and if they can, figure something out, and then be aware when they do, have to go speak with the neighbors, and, it's better for them to be in a place where they're, already figuring out, solutions. So it's all about, willing and, showing the consideration, which is very good on your part. And for Mr. Brady, I think that
It's Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, I'm sorry.
Come see this also double Mr. Brady.
It's Tom Brady.
No, it's most definitely not.
Regardless, that'll be a stance both of you guys will probably just keep to yourselves eventually. Though I feel like this has actually helped both of you understand where you're coming from. It looks like both of you know how each other feel in the situation, and both of you know definitely where you're gonna need to go in the next step of this. One, it does sound like more of a problem for you, Mr. Christian, since this is something on your premises and it could be a potential problem down the line. And this still is a problem for you. So, other than that, I think we are pretty much done here. It sounds like you guys understand each other very well.
Right, but I don't know that we've decided what we want to do about this, because I don't want to keep having to deal with him.
But, I mean,
Right.
Mr. Brady, do you understand the circumstances now that you came here and got to listen to Mr. Christian?
Oh, Tom Brady understands.
So it sounds like instead of being in your hair now, he's gonna go be in the hair of Little Tots, right?
Yeah, I can put you in contact with them. Honestly, as far as this goes, if you guys want, we can meet at my congregation, and we can all just have a community meeting about the nature of the problem, what the community would like to see done as a whole, not just you as one representative. And I mean, I guess, in addition to talking to the staff, we can see where to take things from there, but I know that they are not going to be coming off of our land anytime soon. Like I said, they've proven to be a valuable asset to our congregation, so.
And so instead of no one likes to be kicked out, right? So all you're gonna do is just figure out how to make it better, improve, and that's something that both of you as a community can do. All right. Well, are you both satisfied so far? Do you think this is?
Is there anything else you would like to say, Mr. Tom Brady?
So we just have a reasonable man.
See what Little Tots has to say. Tom Brady will go from there.
All right. Well, if you can go ahead and sign our mediation papers saying that you've come here, conducted well, so we'll be
He
on
wants
the
my
way.
autograph.
Probably.
Don't sell this. I'll fake it down.
God bless you, Mr. Brady.